Hello and welcome to the Flop Sports Podcast. This is episode 11 coming at you. But first, you know what time it is. It's time for that sweet sound and tunes of Danny Spiller.
Hit it. Alrighty, we are back after that lovely musical interlude. Preston.
Almost like a lullaby.
Yeah, I actually fell asleep a little bit. Preston, what's going on the East Coast?
Well, most of the snow from Snowmageddon last week is actually gone. We've gotten a lot of rain the past couple of days, so most of it's gone. But yeah, so I found this out. First of all, I went outside on Monday morning after it snowed last week, and I shoveled my snow like a man and got it off the sidewalks, shoveled a path to the car, got up the car, made room for the cars and stuff. And then I get back inside and I see this news alert that the city of Charlottesville is going to start fining people if they didn't do that. So I was like, good thing I already did, but that's a little mean.
Yeah, they'd fine you for being lazy. That's crazy.
First of all, the sidewalks are technically their property. Let's just make that very clear here.
Yep. No, you're
so
not
they're
wrong.
they're being lazy. All right. I saw some fake snow out there in LA.
Yeah, we don't get snow out here. None of that.
Everything's fake in LA.
We just shovel ash out of our sidewalks to avoid fines.
Oh.
Or if we water our lawns too much, they fine us.
Yeah. That could be it too. All right, let's talk about DraftKings, or let's not talk about DraftKings. Danny, you got the win this week.
You didn't do your DraftKings, did you?
No. All right, but out of curiosity, let's go. Let's see who you had first, and then I'll give my excuse this week for not doing my DraftKings.
I actually had picked like a pretty good lineup. I had Travis Kelce. I had Phillip Rivers, and I had Damian Williams, who really showed out, but I had Keenan Allen, who had zero. Ruined my entire...
It's a tough day.
Keenan Allen's supposed to be my star of the night. He did nothing for me.
Your star in shining armor.
Yeah.
My excuse is I was actually on the road for work a lot of this week, and it just, couldn't get access to my DraftKings account to do it. So that's my excuse. I was down in Charlotte getting ready for bowl season, college football.
Yeah, I hear they don't have internet out there, so I feel you.
It was, yeah. No, Charlotte is completely devoid of Wi-Fi everywhere. It's crazy. It's an epidemic. It's almost a pandemic. Because I'm using those words correct. All right,
100%.
let's get to the big three. All right, let's start off with what I am dubbing the disaster. This is the Washington Wizards, the Phoenix Suns, the Memphis Grizzlies. So basically late, I guess, was it Thursday night? It was announced Trevor Ariza was on his way to Washington. He actually has already played for the Wizards before, so this would be kind of a reunion with the Wizards. He was on his way to Washington. Austin Rivers, and I'm trying to remember all the pieces of this deal off the top of my head. Why don't I just look at my computer and actually see who's in the deal? Kelly Oubre and Austin Rivers would be heading to, I guess, the
Phoenix.
Grizzlies or Phoenix. Well, they're going to Phoenix now, but they were heading to. Yeah, they were going to the Grizzlies originally, and then this is kind of where things got off the mark because A. Brooks was supposed to go to Phoenix. Now, which Brooks that was is up for for whatever you want to believe. So there's a big difference here.
Yep, because the Grizzlies insist that they were supposed to get Marshawn Brooks. Is that right?
Well, the Grizzlies were saying that they were going to trade Marshawn Brooks because both Brooks are on the Grizzlies roster. So they were going to trade Marshawn to the Suns. But the Suns thought they're getting Dillon Brooks. Now, if you look at the difference between these two players, Dillon Brooks is actually a really good role player in the NBA. He's actually a starter for the Grizzlies. And Marshawn Brooks is, kind of a journeyman NBA guy.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty big difference between Dillon and Marshawn.
Can you imagine being Marshawn Brooks and you find out that an entire deal blew up because nobody wants you?
That's just one of the loneliest, saddest thoughts in the world. I saw another funny thing here is if the Suns really just wanted a Brooks to be thrown in the deal, then why didn't the Wizards just throw in Scott Brooks, their coach?
That would be an improvement for them.
I think getting rid of Scott Brooks would actually help the Wizards in this case. Yeah.
Why do you? What was the reasoning for the this trade? Like, do the Wizards think this is a deal that'll be helpful for them?
Well, Danny, I think you're giving the Washington Wizards front office way too much credit. I mean, Ernie Grunfeld is not a good GM. He never has been. But basically, and we'll talk about the Phoenix Suns owner later, but, the Phoenix Suns owner, Robert Sarver, he's been in the news a lot, actually, recently, but for other reasons. But this particular time, so it came out earlier this week that Trevor Ariza was booked and deal to the Lakers. They were just trying to find another team to get that deal done. And then, all of a sudden, Sarver says, I don't want to trade Ariza to the Lakers no matter what. And so basically that opened the door, and basically by releasing that news earlier in the week that the Lakers were going to get him, basically opened the door for other teams to kind of start getting into the trade market, and that's what led to the Wizards doing this. Honestly, I mean, Ariza kind of had, he didn't really fit with that Suns roster and where they're at as a franchise right now, and, I guess Austin Rivers does? I don't know.
He fits on any roster.
Austin Rivers is it's just the do everything man. He can, he might lead the Phoenix Suns to the playoffs now. Who knows?
Well, it's funny because we have some dysfunction in Washington and Phoenix, but I don't know if their dysfunction compares to the Chicago Bulls right now.
Nowhere close.
Supposedly, the players actually contacted the NBPA to complain about Jim Boylan practicing them too much and for too long in what they described as excessive practice regimen.
Yeah, I mean, this basically came out, I guess, like right after we recorded last week, because that was right after the Bulls lost by 56 points to the Celtics. And so kind of right around that time, that's when, Boylan wanted to go hardball on this, and I heard someone compare Boylan's trying to be like the Coach Carter of the NBA and just trying to like run these guys down. Like, I don't know who he thinks he is, and I think I've heard him kind of talking about Pop, and someone say you're not Pop. You're not Popovich, and you never will be, or something like that. And this ain't the Spurs. Yeah, but basically, and then players were actually going to boycott practice and not go. But thanks to Robin Lopez and Lauri Markkanen, they kind of convinced the players that maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe we should actually go to practice. But another interesting thing came out of all this because it's part of their rotation, and one of the players they signed just last year.
Yeah, Jabari Parker, infamous for saying you don't get paid to play defense, has been dropped from the rotation, and the Bulls are actually interested in trading him, which is interesting, I guess, first of all, because it does make you wonder what role he played in this entire not wanting to practice scenario. But also, it really highlights just how awful he has been this year. ESPN actually just released their real plus minus for the numbers. And Preston, out of 430 players, do you know where Jabari Parker ranks?
Where's he ranked?
430.
Yeah, no, I knew from the get-go that this is not going to be a good move for Jabari Parker. And, as a Bucks fan, I actually like Jabari a lot. I just didn't, I struggled to see where he was going to fit in the NBA going forward, but it was definitely not with the Bulls. I thought that was a bad move. I know it was going back home for him. He's from Chicago. But I just thought this was a bad idea. But if you're the Bulls, I mean, I guess this is a pretty tradable contract because he is making $20 million. That he is making that much, and that's a lot of money for someone that is not a good player right now. But he has a team option for next season, so basically, you're getting some cap relief if you trade for Jabari Parker. So, do you think teams would bite on this and try to and go for it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're trying to do a cap dump move and gain space for next year, and you're planning to cut him as soon as the season's done, then maybe. But I don't know why. Why would I want a guy who like doesn't have any knees left? Like, have you seen him on the court? He can't move sideways or forwards or backwards.
How about this? The Knicks, obviously, they want to be big players in free agency next summer. They're tanking this year as well because Kristaps Porzingis is out for the whole season. What about trading Tim Hardaway Jr., getting out from that contract, or Courtney Lee getting out from that contract and taking on Jabari Parker for the rest of the year?
Maybe Washington can trade for him. That might be a good fit.
Well, which Jabari Parker are we talking about? I mean, there's a lot of them out there.
All right, so moving on to the NFL. We had actually a really big game on Thursday night between the Chiefs and the Chargers.
Oh, there was football on Thursday?
Oh, there's always football on Thursday.
Oh, I probably should have done DraftKings then.
Mm-hmm. But the Chargers have been on fire lately. They are currently tied with the Chiefs, which I would not have thought would have happened. Do you think there's a chance they can pull this out at the end of the year?
I just don't see it happening right now because right now the Chiefs actually own the tiebreaker over Los Angeles because of their win percentage in the division games. And looking at Los Angeles' schedule for the rest of the year, they've got the Ravens and then they got the Broncos. Some pretty winnable games there. I mean, both those teams are going to be, well, I guess, just the Ravens now because the Broncos are out. But I think the Ravens are going to be competing for, a playoff spot, so that's going to be a tough game. The Broncos, say what you will about them, but, they try. They try. I mean, they don't have Tim Tebow at quarterback. And then for the Chiefs, a tough matchup, Sunday night game next week against the Seahawks. And then they play the Raiders to end the season.
Yeah. So basically, the Chiefs, if they win out, they're going to be fine. So they've got
if they win out, but if let's say they slip up against the Seahawks next week, which I know is not believable after they lost today, but let's say the Chargers win out. That's the thing. The Chargers have to win out. They got to beat the Ravens. They got to beat the Broncos. And they got to hope that the Chiefs lose next week because they're not going to lose against the Raiders.
Yeah. Now that we said that, they probably will lose to the Raiders. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how the NFL has been working this year. So, speaking of a crazy NFL, why don't we get into those NFL quick hits?
Let's do it.
Yeah, so the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously not the season they predicted at coming off a Super Bowl title, but probably got a lot worse for them now as Carson Wentz has a fracture in his back, might be done for the rest of the season. And so obviously, their playoff hopes are gone, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe not. Nick Foles is the savior of the team. But,
that's true. That's true.
He's not a bad backup, so they do have that going for them. But it is an interesting long-term question with Carson Wentz. He had the ACL last year. Now the fracture in his back, which we know Tony Romo dealt with throughout his career and can very easily reoccur. And I was reading up on it on some WebMD, and really the only solution for this is you just have to wait for like 5 months for your back to heal on its own and hope that it heals correctly. So it's going to bring them to an interesting crossroads when they have to decide whether to go forward with him or Nick Foles or somebody else.
Yeah, I think, just the way it looks like they're going to handle this, I think they'll go into next season with Carson Wentz there, and obviously Nick Foles will still be there too, because, I mean, how smart was that this offseason to hold on to Nick Foles just in case?
Yep, he's living that dream, the highly paid backup quarterback.
Yeah, it's not a bad life. Yeah, but Doug Peterson, the Eagles coach, said about the injury, it says sometimes he just gets a little sore, a little tight, and so we're just going to rest him today and evaluate him further. So, I mean, it doesn't seem bad for the way the Eagles are talking about it, but, things could be a lot worse behind the scenes. Speaking of Nick Foles, though.
I looked this up on WebMD. I know what I'm talking about.
You're much smarter than I am. We know that, Dr. Spiller. But Nick Foles, he actually hasn't played since week 2 this season. And he had 451 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception in those 2 games. I mean, honestly, Carson Wentz hasn't even been having that good of a season, so maybe it's an improvement since Wentz is hurt, but we'll see. We had some firings in the NFL, Danny. The Raiders let it off with firing GM Reggie McKenzie.
Yeah, and here's what I want to highlight here. You often talk about, why fire someone in the middle of the season, just let them finish. And they actually gave Reggie McKenzie the option. They were like, we're going to fire you, but you can stay on through the end of the year if you want. So that's doing it with class, the Preston style.
Yeah, the Preston style. Thank you. If Reggie doesn't want that, then obviously... Look, here's my thing with this whole situation is John Gruden clearly is running things in Oakland right now.
Yeah.
They didn't say when they hired him that they made him, in charge of all decisions, but they made him in charge of all decisions. You don't trade away your 2 best players, and the coach has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. You also don't give someone a 10-year contract if they're not going to be in charge of a little bit more than just coaching.
Yeah, that's also true. I mean, I think, this is just another step closer for Oakland just to go up in flames with all this. I really like Reggie McKenzie. He's had some great draft picks there in Oakland. He was the guy that picked Derek Carr. He was the guy that got Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack. He's the guy that built a pretty good offensive line there. And now they're not really giving him a chance to finish it out because they blew up the team and they gave it to Gruden.
Yep. And another coach fired. Vikings fire their offensive coordinator, John DeFilippo, after they got blown out. I mean,
DeFilippo.
I always say the names right.
Yep, yeah, that's true. And I'm always going to call you out for saying them right.
Yep.
This was a surprise for me. I know the Vikings just got embarrassed last week, and that was terrible on so many ways. Because, I had just said on the podcast that I thought the Vikings, were still, going to be maybe, sneaky Super Bowl contender. But hey, they came back this week and got a win, so I'll give them props for that. But this was also a surprise because DeFilippo was actually being mentioned for a lot of possible head coaching jobs this offseason, so...
I guess he'll be looking for those now, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be coming now. It's now he's not even with the team, so perfect.
Yeah. So another coach in the news, though. Jalen Ramsey was asked about his coach, and he said, I ain't worried about nobody but myself.
Does that surprise you about Jalen Ramsey?
No, I would expect him to, if they were like, Jalen, are you worried about your mom right now? He'd be like, I ain't worried about nobody but myself. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a guy that's on the hot seat, and no voice of support from Jalen, that's for sure. But
I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Doug Marrone's done after this year.
Yeah, I think so. But they're letting him finish it out.
The Preston style, right?
But another coach that we often make fun of, who's actually had a pretty good run this year, Jason Garrett with the Cowboys, until
this week,
they got wrecked. They got shut out for, I forget the stat, but it was the first time in a long, long time they
I think
scored.
2002 was the last time that they had been shut out. Yeah, I mean, this is coming from a guy who I sat Amari Cooper in fantasy last week when he had 40 points. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to start him today. And then he gets me 8 points. Zeke still had a good game for whatever that matters.
Yeah.
Uh,
It is mostly interesting just because that division somehow stays alive. There
yeah.
are the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Redskins are all still in play to win that division and make the playoffs.
I I still don't understand how the Redskins are in this hunt, but more power to them. I actually watched some of their game today. Josh Johnson, is actually playing really well as quarterback for them. So, um, who knew? Who knew? Yeah, that division is it's interesting. I still think the Cowboys finish out, but another interesting division is the Colts division because the Colts last week lost to the Jaguars. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was the 6-0 game. So how do you go from no, okay, that was a couple weeks ago. So they just beat the Texans last week, 24-21, and the week before that was the Jaguars game.
Oh yeah, yeah. With
So
that.
it's been a couple. The snow's got my brain all fogged up and stuff. um, so that was a couple weeks ago. But how do you go from 6-0 loss to the Jaguars, who lost to the Redskins today, by the way, to beating the Cowboys 23-0?
I know they're such an up and down team, very unpredictable.
But the Cowboys are too. So I don't like both of these teams are just weird teams. At least they're not terrible teams like the Patriots, though.
Well, speaking of the Patriots, that was a tough loss today. We got the ball back in classic 2-minute drill time with
I know. I was like, all
Tom
right.
Brady and just some awful play calling, some not great throws from Brady, and we lost it.
Whoa. Not great throws from Brady?
Hey,
Is
he's
that
40.
is that
If
possible?
if you didn't know, he's 41 years old.
Oh, so now that's an excuse. Now it's an excuse that Brady's old.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that he's 41 years old. But
Oh my gosh. This is why I hate the New England Patriots. This is
I,
why.
what are your thoughts on Cleveland? Baker Mayfield did as Skip Bayless says just enough to win, and I believe they're actually still in the playoff hunt right now.
Oh, they are so in the playoff hunt. I mean, they need everything to happen for them to make the playoffs, but they are so in the playoff hunt still. Believe land, right? Like Cleveland has really turned it around. I think it's really just Hugh Jackson. I mean, kind of look at it because like the Bengals. I mean, where are they now? Now that Hugh Jackson is there, so is it like a Hugh Jackson curse? No team that has Hugh Jackson shall be good. I don't know, but probably it's not a coincidence.
Yeah, you're not wrong. The curse lives on. It's no longer the Madden cover curse. It's now the Hugh Jackson curse.
Hugh Jackson on next year's Madden cover would be great though.
Yeah, that would be
maybe that breaks both curses. Fight a curse with a curse.
What has been interesting coming out of some shuffling with the Steelers and the Chargers and the Patriots, Houston still winning, are now the number 2 spot, on track for a bye, and they have we did a deep dive on them a couple weeks ago, and then right now they have a top 5 defense, top 10 offense. They're winning games. They're playing really well.
No, this is the Houston team that everyone thought they were going to get coming into the season. They have turned it on. They have been the team that everyone thought they were going to be. They were who we thought they were. And everyone's let them off the hook. But I it's kind of weird with like the Houston and the Chargers both just coming out of nowhere to get this far. Like I had no idea that Chargers were 11-3.
Yep.
Stephen A. Smith also had no idea the Chargers were 11-3 because he didn't even know who was playing for the Chargers.
He doesn't know the Chargers are a football team.
Did you see that? He said that first of all he called them the San Diego Chargers, and then said that he's excited to see Hunter Henry play, who's been out for the entire season with an injury.
Yep.
And like the whole time, Teddy Bruschi is just like putting his hand like over his face because he like cannot believe how bad that is.
Yeah,
Oh man.
there was also a video that went around of Stephen A. Falling asleep on live TV. So he might just
Yes.
be like a little overworked. He might just need a vacation.
I mean, hardest working man in TV. Like, no one gets it right like that guy. Let's with some of this playoff talk. Let's look at the standings at this point in the season. Obviously, we look at the AFC. We got the Chiefs number one sitting on top. We've got the Texans followed by the Patriots. And right behind them, we've got the Steelers still in the lead there, and then the Chargers and the Ravens
Yep,
are in those
some
playoff
good wild
spots.
card teams in
Some
the
really good
East.
wild card teams. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, couple other teams in the hunt still: the Colts, the Titans, the Dolphins, and the Browns
Mm.
still in the hunt. Out of those teams, I really only feel like the Colts might be able to jump over the Ravens. What do you think?
Um, no, no, I think the Ravens are gonna get it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I agree. I think the Ravens too, but I mean, we talked earlier, like the Chargers and the Ravens play next week, so I think the Chargers are going to go out there and try to get that win to get that number one seed, and so the Ravens might be falling. Who knows? In the NFC, we got the Saints, the Rams, followed by the Bears. Now the NFC North champions.
Yep.
That's pretty good. And the Cowboys in the 4th seed. The Vikings are the 6th seed, and the Seahawks somehow are the 5th seed after their loss today. Mainly because the NFC kind of sucks right now. Redskins at 7-7. Panthers, who play Monday night against the Saints, are at the 8th seed, and the Eagles are in the 9th seed right now. Any movement there, you think, or the Vikings Seahawks keep their place?
Yeah, I think the most interesting is if Seattle loses to Kansas City next week, that could open up some moves for Washington to potentially sneak in there if they run the table.
If Washington makes the playoffs, like, this is going to be one weird NFL season.
Yep.
All right, well, just want to quickly point out the NFL draft order with the Arizona Cardinals now the number one team because the Oakland Raiders can't even lose right.
The Cardinals deserve it. They've been real bad.
Yeah. We talk a little bit about the Oakland Raiders. Oakland is suing the Raiders for their Vegas move. That's a new one.
Yep.
But this opened up some ideas in your head, Danny, right?
Yeah, well, so they said that if the Raiders don't stay in Oakland and they don't go to Vegas, some other options are they could go to San Diego, Santa Clara, or even Reno. And that got me thinking, where do I want to see a new NFL team if I could see one anywhere? So, obviously made a list of my top 3. First on my list, I had LA, because why not? Let's get a third team here.
You have no teams for so long, then you get 2 all of a sudden, and now you want a third team?
I'm greedy. I'm addicted to the stadiums. Give me another one. They can play in like USC's Rose Bowl or something.
All right.
Number 2, I have Vancouver. I feel like whenever anyone talks about Canada, they go right to Toronto, but no. Let's get one in Vancouver. Easy flight for anyone on the West Coast.
They don't talk about Toronto at all.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
All right, what's your last one?
And my last one is Paris.
Paris.
Yeah, you imagine all those aerial B-roll shots they do with the Eiffel Tower in the background.
That would be pretty great.
Talk about a home field advantage. I like it.
There you go. How about this for a home field advantage? My number 1 is Rome. Not just Rome in general, but in the Colosseum.
Yeah, I saw you put that. I'm pretty jealous. That was a really good pick.
Yeah, you didn't think about that one, did you?
No, I didn't.
I mean, obviously they'd have to do some, updates to the Coliseum, but I think it would still be better than the Oakland's current stadium.
Yeah. Yep.
You're not wrong, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong.
Number 2, Hawaii. I mean, they already go there for the Pro Bowl, but maybe not even just like on the island, but maybe like in the ocean,
Ooh, like a floating
stadium.
seasteading.
Yeah. and you got to take like a ferry to get out to the stadium. Like this could work.
I
I
like
could see
that.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it might have some flooding issues, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's for someone else to figure out. I'm just the idea guy. I'm the big idea guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And my last one is Alaska, and not just Alaska, but Alaska with a retractable roof.
Ooh.
Because I mean, everyone talks about Lambeau in the winter at Green Bay and stuff, but like, talk about home field advantage, Danny. Talk
Yep.
about home field advantage.
If anyone
Playing in
would
the cold.
voluntarily go to Alaska, it'd be Bill Belichick. He'd be like, "We're gonna win at home every time. We're gonna practice in the ice caps."
I think Tom Brady would go with him too.
Oh, for sure. All right, well, that's the end of our NFL section. We're gonna come back with some NBA in just a minute.
All right, welcome back to the Flop Sports Podcast. That was your annual, daily, weekly, hourly Brita break. Brought to you by Brita. We got our NBA storylines now. We start off with my boy, LeBron. Last week, LeBron and D-Wade playing their final game against each other. And I mean, if you paid attention closely to what they say after the game, Dwayne Wade says, "I appreciate you letting it end here." You're talking about at the Staples Center in LA. LeBron says it was either here or at the Garden.
I know.
AKA Madison Square Garden. Danny, what do you think?
Afterwards, LeBron was like, I don't know. I was just like talking about the two iconic stadiums. And I was like, but in what world would they end at the Garden unless one of them is there?
I think LeBron has always thought about going to the Knicks. I think that's always been something that LeBron's thought about. The problem was the Knicks have always sucked. And there's no sign of them getting any better. Like, because James Dolan is their owner, who I still believe is the worst owner in professional sports, like they were never going to get better. And then they went through that whole Phil Jackson phase and Derek Fisher as their coach. Then you had whatever came after that. I mean, it's been a mess there.
Can't even keep track of it all. That's how crazy it is. But yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say it was never in the running for LeBron, like in his last free agency, but it was more like an idea that he would have loved to have played there at some point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that's something he always wanted to do. It just was never a possibility because the Knicks suck.
Yep. Yep, you're not wrong. So, speaking of someone that LeBron used to play with, J.R. Smith is rumored to be a trade target for the Houston Rockets. I don't even know what to make of this.
Why not? I mean, if you're the Rockets, why not?
I think the Rockets are desperate. They're like, well, we'll try anything.
Oh, they're so desperate right now. I mean, they try to get on the Trevor Ariza stuff, obviously, and bring him back to town, but I mean, what is J.R. Smith going to solve for you? Like,
he can throw some soup at somebody and get them fired up before the game.
You're still on the soup kick.
I'm always on this. That's legendary.
I think this is like the third time you brought that up since we started this podcast.
There'll be a lot more than that.
This is just. I mean, the Rockets are pulling at string right now, and it's just continues to unravel, and there's nothing on the other end of it.
Yep. So another interesting character.
Amazing transition. Transition.
Yeah, that was all me. I thought you were going to transition, and I was like, well, I guess I'm transitioning. So here we go. But
the flop raw.
Jimmy Butler was on the JJ Redick podcast, and he was just opening up on his infamous.
Do you want to do some like a table reading? Like I could be like Jimmy and you be JJ.
Oh yeah, I love it.
All right.
So he's opening up on the practice where he beat all of the starters when he was playing with the bench players, and here's how it went down. You start.
But
the first line is yours.
Okay. Yeah, you didn't have that one picked out. Okay. I only shot the ball once.
Really?
I only shot the ball one time. I only shot the ball once.
But every quote coming out of there was like, Jimmy was getting buckets. He was dominating.
Oh, I was dominating, but I only shot the ball once. Dimes. Boom, boom, boom. Steals. Blocks. but I only shot the ball one time.
And the Oscar goes to Daniel Spiller for his JJ Redick impersonation.
Supporting actor.
No, but that was just super funny. I mean, what a character. He is always fascinating, always in the news.
Oh man, he's a character, that's for sure. But could I also just point out that I love this JJ Redick podcast and role on The Ringer right now. Like, it's just super cool to get like a NBA player's perspective on things.
Yeah, like a current NBA player. It's very cool. Yeah,
exactly. Like, we would not get this Jimmy Butler story if it was not for JJ Redick. And for that, we thank you.
So earlier we were talking about the Phoenix Suns. Well, there's a little more going on with them beyond just trade rumors, because the owner threatened to leave the city unless they paid for stadium renovations. And then completely backtracked.
Oh, for sure. He was like, there's Seattle, there's Las Vegas. I'll take them there if y'all don't, pay up. If you don't show me the money. And then he was like, no, I would never move the team from Phoenix. Like, this is why Robert Sarver is just one of the worst owners in sports. He's not the worst, because that's James Dolan. I maintain that.
But one of them.
He might be the third, because I think Dan Snyder, the owner of the Redskins, is the second worst. And then I'll go Robert Sarver right after that. But this is how great this was. Because at a city council meeting in Phoenix, Greta Rogers, everyone's hero, an older woman who was just there, to share her 2 cents on this whole thing, and she just destroyed Robert Sarver.
Yep,
destroyed.
Her big one-liner was that he's so tight he squeaks when he walks.
Talking about how he doesn't spend any money to make this team better.
Yep. But no, it was great, she really hit on a lot of issues, namely that, why should the city pay for renovations if the owner hasn't, done anything to make the team competitive and worth watching.
That's a smart lady right there. I think Greta Rogers should be deputy commissioner of the NBA.
I'll make a change.org.
And that's
petition.
Tough for me to say because I'm a huge Mark Tatum fan. Because everyone knows who Mark Tatum is.
Maybe we can get Greta on the podcast at some point.
Yeah, we'll see if Greta has some time. We might have to move our record time up a little bit, but yeah, the 9 o'clock time. Well, I mean, what time is it out there on the West Coast? It
is 6.
6. That might be pushing it still, but we'll see what we can do. We'll get our booking agent on it. But you have some trade rumors that you'd like to share.
Yeah, so I'm curious your thoughts on this, because as we all know, Toronto is, on fire. Really, they're playing like the best team in the league right now. But Woj reported yet again that Kawhi still wants to go out to LA, and the quote's pretty funny because he says they can't change the geography, they can't change the weather in Toronto. Those will always be things against them in this, which is pretty funny. Like, I wonder if it does just come down to weather for him. He's just like, I'm not doing winter here.
I mean, Kawhi's such a weird dude. Would you put it past him?
No, but it's still funny.
I mean, LA is home for him. Like, that's where Kawhi is from, and unlike Kevin Durant, maybe Kawhi actually wants to go play at home. So yeah, that's something. Another part of this is Anthony Davis, because all you Celtics fans keep thinking you're going to trade for him, and we've already debunked that rumor. But maybe the Lakers might be making a move for Anthony Davis, who, by the way, earlier this year signed for Clutch Sports, the same agency that represents none other than LeBron James.
Yep.
I like Anthony Davis to the Lakers. I like it a lot.
You do? You don't hate it?
I might be a fan, you could say.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay. I don't know if it'd really be good for the Lakers, but
you don't think getting like one of the top 3 players in the NBA over there? That wouldn't be good.
I do think if he does get traded before, if they end up deciding to trade him and let him go, that it will be to LA or Boston. So that'll be a really interesting trade war in probably a year.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see what the Pelicans get out of it because a lot of the superstar packages lately have not been great. So I'm interested to see. Um, NBA standings, real quick. Anyone jump out to you? Any surprises so far?
Well, the two main things that jumped out to me are Indiana and Boston have both really turned it around the last couple weeks. They're both 8-2 in their last 10, and it's making for an interesting East where we have a clear top five, and
Yeah,
then everyone else is
everyone else
straight
after
straight
that.
garbage.
I would say the top five teams in the East are at least as good, if not better, than the top five teams in the West.
Yeah, no, that is it is interesting. The West has been so much better for so long, and I think we're finally seeing some of the shift.
I think we're seeing like those really good teams in the East come back. They still have a lot to work to do with the rest of the conference
Yeah.
because the bottom the last three teams in the Eastern Conference playoff right now are the Pistons, the Hornets, and the Magic,
Mm,
and those are not good teams.
nope.
Looking at the Western Conference, I just want to point out real quick two teams. One is the Sacramento Kings because I will not cease to be amazed by what they have done so far. De'Aaron Fox is playing great. They're actually in the 7th spot right now in a really competitive West that's probably 14 teams deep. Sorry, Phoenix Suns.
Rip.
Uh,
Yeah, so something else that stood out to me is I was looking at just your typical point differential, and it was just interesting because every team has a pretty good point differential except for the Clippers and Grizzlies, who are like basically break even.
yeah,
Which does lend some credibility to your theory that they were both overachieving early on and are coming back down to earth now.
yeah, and it's you kind of been able to see that they're both kind of coming back to the mean. I think maybe the Kings. I mean, you got to think like the Rockets, maybe the Pelicans, the Jazz. Hopefully, everyone's preseason darlings, the Spurs. Like some of those teams will start to bump up. I think the Timberwolves will be a better team now without Jimmy Butler, somehow. But watch out for the Mavericks. I'm really interested to see how they do. Obviously, the whole Luka Doncic thing is just taking over the NBA right now.
Yep, he's the hottest young star in the league.
Well, speaking of the stars, Danny,
Ooh,
did
ooh.
we go to the moon? Did the U.S. go to the moon?
I
Because
don't know. Did we go to the moon?
Steph Curry disagrees.
Steph Curry says we didn't go to the moon, so I say we didn't go to the moon.
I think someone said later on that this might have been a joke by Curry, but I told my wife this, and then we were talking about the Kyrie flat Earth thing too. It's just
Hmm.
like, what are these guys doing? Like, are they just bored? Like, do they need or do you think they really believe all this?
Kyrie might actually believe his. I think Steph Curry was just kind of bored and
Yeah,
what else are they gonna do? But
that's
it's
true.
funny because NASA actually offered to give him a tour of their whole facility.
Another conspiracy theory is that Steph made all this up just so he go get a tour at NASA.
Man, if he did that, he's way smarter than I gave him credit for,
Yeah.
to be
I love a
honest.
good conspiracy theory, Danny.
Yep.
So that brings us to our question of the week. That's a good transition. Top three NBA conspiracy theories. What is your number one?
Did you pat yourself on the back for that transition?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right, so the first one for me, Game 6, 2002 Western Conference Finals, Sacramento versus the Lakers. You can watch, and the conspiracy is all about the refs wanting the Lakers to go back to the finals and letting Shaq step over the free throw line and calling
Yeah.
crazy fouls. And there's a whole Coldplay tracked montage of all the conspiracy on YouTube, which is great. So that's my number one.
All right. My number one is the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
We all know those San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich and all they like to do. Well, they were playing LeBron James at Game 1 of the 2014 Finals. Do you remember this game?
Oh, I remember. I was watching it.
You were watching it. Good. Because in those finals, the Spurs turned up the heat, and not on the court, but in the arena, because it was in the 90s inside AT&T Center in San Antonio. So a conspiracy theory is that maybe the Spurs were trying to get LeBron James to kind of cramp up, and so they might have, broken the AC or turned it off that night. Because
Oldest trick in the book that goes like way back to the 60s when
he's
teams
got a
used to...
history of cramping, but and they got the win that game.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Lying on the floor. All right, number 2 for me.
No.
The Ewing conspiracy, which is that essentially that when the draft happened and they did all the ping pong balls, that they faked it so that the Knicks could get the best player, first pick in the draft. And the big theory around it is that the envelope was frozen so that David Stern would know which one to pick, which is very funny, and I believe it. Yeah. I don't doubt it.
Well, and you bring up that one, the Patrick Ewing one, but there's so many more examples of this, throughout history. You've got the Orlando Magic, who got back-to-back number 1 picks in 1992 and 1993 with Shaq and Chris Webber. Or Chris Webber traded for Penny Hardaway as payment for buying the team in 1991 for the new owners of the Magic. Then you've got Cleveland getting the number 1 pick in 2003 to get, a guy from that town in LeBron James. And then you got Cleveland again getting the number 1 pick in 2011 as well as 2013 and 2014 after losing LeBron James in a televised decision that David Stern warned him not to do. So maybe a little payback there. And then this one probably tops them all for me. This one I can assure you is, a conspiracy that is true. 2012, the new owner of the then New Orleans Hornets, now the New Orleans Pelicans, Tom Benson, got the ping pong balls that night and got Anthony Davis.
What's the rigging? Like,
I don't know how they do it, but think about it, because in every other sport, the number 1 pick is picked off of who finishes with the worst record. The NBA is the only one that doesn't do that. And it's a pretty kind of, I guess it seems fair on the surface, but it seems like something that could easily be rigged.
Oh, yeah. No, you're not wrong. All right, so my next one, you didn't want me to take because it's your favorite. So we can share this one as our last one, which is the Michael Jordan banned for his gambling problem. Do you want to expand on that? Your favorite theory?
Yeah. So we all remember when LeBron take that year off to go do Looney Tunes and also beat Space Jam and then also play baseball.
Just so you know, you said LeBron instead of Jordan.
Well. They're one and the same.
Yeah.
So Michael Jordan going to play Space Jam and also play baseball and whatnot. But what really happened was that he was about to get suspended for gambling. And so basically David Stern said, why don't you take a little break away from the game and go play baseball for a year, and that'll be your 1-year suspension.
Yep. No, I believe it. And
it's 100% true. I fully believe this one.
In Jordan's retirement conference, he said, I hope to be back if David Stern will let me back in. Confirmed.
Boom. Gotcha.
All right, so that's the end of our NBA conspiracy theories. We'll be back with, of course, some Tim Tebow, some Rex of the Week. Stick around through this sponsored content commercial break.
Welcome back to the Flop Sports Podcast. We are now at our point of the episode, excuse me. I keep going all over the place, but it's time for the Tim Tebow update, Danny. What do we have for this week?
All right, first up, someone did an exclusive interview with Tim Tebow to get his 5 favorite things at home. Are you ready for this?
Oh my gosh. I can't believe they got this interview.
I know. I'm going to hit you with what it is, and then you give me a 1-word reaction to each one, all right? Number 1. Picture of his childhood dog, Otis.
Woof.
Christmas decorations.
Joy.
A photo with his mom.
Swag.
His childhood Bible.
Praise.
And then a David Yurman necklace that his older brother gave to him.
Why?
And there's our Tim Tebow update for the week.
That was great. All right, time for the Elon update of the week. So basically, Elon football no longer exists anymore. It's gone. Erased from the face of the planet because they lost their football coach, Kurt Signetti, to JMU. So Elon football's done.
Who reported on that?
I did.
Oh, wow.
My station did.
Wow,
yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Exclusive.
Well, no, it was a press release that was sent to us, and we just
exclusive.
Reported the details of the press release. But yeah.
Also in Elon news, Elon men's basketball had a heartbreaking loss to the Griffins, lost by 1 point on the last shot of the game. But of course,
Who's
always got to shout.
Who's your name? Who's your name of the week?
Shouting out, I picked a hard one. Carolus Condrotas.
That's probably not right, but go ahead.
2 for 2 on his free throws, scored 2 points. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, if he had scored, 2 more, they would have won the game.
Good point. You can do better. Do better.
Always do better. All right, Rex of the week. We both agree on this first one. This is a great story. Did you listen to it or did you read it?
Oh, I listened to it.
I listened to it too. Yeah, I was like, I'm sitting here on my computer. I just want to listen to it.
Yep.
But basically, this girl writes about the story of her dad and his friendship with Charles Barkley. Yes, the very same on TNT and everything, and
yep.
He just passed away recently, but it's just a really cool story of their friendship. It's been all over Twitter, all over the social media sphere. So go check it out. Another rec on Bleacher Report. The other ball. Yeah, there's more. It's not just Lonzo. It's not just LaMelo or LiAngelo. You've got Dre Ball.
How many kids does this guy have?
No, this is not his. This is a cousin of the other balls.
Okay.
But even Kevin Durant really likes his game, so we could be seeing another ball in the NBA actually make the NBA, unlike LiAngelo Ball.
True.
Shout out to Lonzo,
right, now,
who had a triple-double the other night.
I know. Bron was he was really feeling Lonzo in his game there. They're
How
clicking.
How could you not? All right, Instagram update. Let's do it.
Yep. First off, we had a Chicago Bears player celebrated winning the NFC North title by proposing to his girlfriend. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah, nothing sweeter than that. It was Charles Leno, offensive lineman for the Bears, that did that.
Incredible. Next up, I'm sure you've seen this. LeBron James trolling on the internet, Channing Frye. Did you watch this?
I have not watched this yet, but I can just
watch
imagine.
it. No, watch it right now. It's like 10 seconds, and give us your live reaction.
Oh, good move, Channing. Oh.
Yeah, Channing Frye is just a great locker room guy. He's not a good on court guy, if you know what I mean.
All right, we've got some girls playing basketball. Hit me with these 2 updates.
Oh, high school, yeah. We got one girl. She scored 43 points in her games today, so we'll put the video out there. But she's got moves, man. You saw that video.
Yeah, she's dropping kids.
All right, and then we got this one all the way from Colorado. We've got Fran Belibi, who, if you haven't seen this yet, she steals the ball. She's 15, and she goes all the way to the other end, one-hand slam.
Wow. Yeah,
What?
I did see it. It was incredible.
What? She was the first girl to dunk in a Colorado high school basketball game, so props to her. Major props there. All right, let's get to that weekly sign-off. You got the timer ready to go?
Oh, I'm gonna get it ready right now. What players and or teams would you like to do?
Man, I am thinking Kawhi Leonard and his friends up in Toronto.
All right, let's do it. And we're starting. It is wintertime in Toronto. Kawhi Leonard has stepped outside of his apartment and/or house and is walking to the practice stadium with Kyle Lowry.
Kawhi realizes that despite what he thought, Toronto's weather could not change and quickly changes course and direction towards LA.
Kyle Lowry gives Kawhi a bear hug in an attempt to keep him warm and prevent him from leaving the Toronto frozen tundra.
Well, then Kawhi says, all right, I'll stay for this year. Following the Toronto Raptors' loss in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi leaves to go join LeBron James in Los Angeles.
Psych, it's the Clippers. What a great ending.
Got me. Surprise ending. I didn't even know that one was coming. Oh, man, you got me. All right.
All right. What a show.
Well, another one in the books.
Yep.
One in the books. All right. That is all we got for this week. We will this is our last one for the year. Yeah, for the whole year. And we will be back in the new year with much more from the Flop Sports Podcast. So, 2 weeks off, but we'll be back very soon. So, we'll see you then.
All right. Bye, everybody.